Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and happy secular New Year. New melody might just appear in a little later psalm, Psalm 98, melody that was written tonight, so I guarantee you'll be the first ones to hear it, although it is very clearly inspired by Damien Rice, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, and changed hopefully enough to be its own thing. But yeah, it's January 1st, a completely and absolutely arbitrary date, because the actual astronomical change happens at the solstice, but the new year is a few days later. And a podcast that I've been following asked the question on, is it really arbitrary, or do we actually need a few days between the actual astronomical event where a change has happened? The sun has indeed provably made its way around the Earth. Sorry, I'm in a pre-Copernican world all of a sudden, where the Earth has made its way around the sun, and it's provable via the solstice, but yet we celebrate the new year, the new secular year, a few days after that. It seems like contemplation is what we try to do. That's the idea of New Year's resolutions. I think to some extent, because we are very secularized within Judaism in the year 2021, feels good to say that perhaps we do more contemplation at the secular New Year than we do at our own, well, we have 4 New Years, but our own Rosh Hashanah. And so maybe tonight we step into a bit of a more contemplative place to look back on what for many of us has been a profoundly difficult year. And maybe a little bit more meditative service than usual, hence introducing this melody tonight, which is a much more contemplative look at Psalm 98 than the Carlebach melody that I usually use. I've been meaning to write a new melody for this. It's not an every week melody, but it's one we need to slow things down and contemplate. So let's go ahead and do our blessing for candles together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We begin our service on page 111, our journey through the week, one psalm for each day of the week, recognizing that we are not prepared for Shabbat yet, that we have to go through a process to get there. We do that by singing, by meditating, by humming along. Don't forget that if our Hebrew isn't that great, Yadai is absolutely acceptable and perfectly authentic Hebrew.
Lehu neranena l'Adonai, Lehu neranena l'Adonai, Nariya l'tzur yishenu. Nariya l'tzur yishenu. Nekad mafanav betoda Bismiro nariya lo. Nekad mafanav betoda Bismiro nariya lo. Ki el gadol Adonai Umelech gadol hakol Elohim. Ki el gadol Adonai Umelech gadol hakol Elohim. Asher benu makere aretz Metwafot harim lo. Asher lo hayam vehu asahu Vebeshet yadav yitzaru. Boi nishtakav v'nichra'a Nivecha livnei Adonai Oseinu. Ki hu Eloheinu v'nachnu am marito V'metzon yado hayom Im kolo tishma'u. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu shamayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiram hayam umelo. Ya'alo Sinai v'chol asher bo, az nuklatzei ya'ar. Lifnei Adonai kiva, kiva lishpot haaretz, lishpot teveh v'tzedek, ve'amin be'emunato. Adonai malach tagel haaretz, Yismechuim rabim, anan varefes vivav tzedek mishpat mechon kiso.
Last 4 verses of 115.
Or sarua la tzadik, o yishrelem simcha. Or zarua la tzadik, o yishrelem simcha. Simchu tzadikim Badonai, Badonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho, lezecher kodsho. Or zarua latzadik uyishrele simcha. Or zarua latzadik uyishrele simcha.
Melody, just try to sing along. You've heard it in the introduction.
Mizmor shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflao asa. Shialo Yemino Uzroa Kocho Odia Adonai Yeshuato Le'ene hagoyim Gilak tzidkato Zachar chazdo Ve'emunato Levet Yisrael Levet Yisrael.
Page 117.
Adonai Malach Yegazu Amim Yoshev Kruvim Tanu Ta'aretz Anav Tzion Gadol V'Ramhu Al Kol Ha'amim Yodu Shemecha Gadol Menorah Kadoshu.
Bottom of 118.
Romemu, Romemu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu, Romemu, Adonai. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai, Eloheinu, Romemu, Romemu, Adonai. Vehishtachavu lehar kodsho, Vehishtachavu lehar kodsho, Vehishtachavu lehar kodsho, Vekodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai, Eloheinu ki kadosh Adonai. Ki kadosh Adonai, Eloheinu ki kadosh Adonai. Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Vekodsho. Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Veishtachavu lehar kodsho, Vekodsho. Ya na 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 ya na na ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya ya na ya na na Nismo le David Havu l'Adonai b'ne'eli Havu l'Adonai Kavod va'oz Yahinai nai Havu l'Adonai Kevod shemo Ishtachvu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod yirim Adonai al mayim rabim Kol Adonai b'koach Yahinai Kol Adonai behadar Kol Adonai shover arzim Vayishmer Adonai ed azei avanon Vayarkidem kemo egel Levanon Vesirion Kemo ven re'emim Yahinai Kol Adonai chotzem lavodesh Kol Adonai yachil midbar Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh Kol Adonai yechol el ayelot Vayechesor v'yarot Uvehechalom Kulo omer kavod Yahinai Adonai Lamo bo yashav Yeshev Adonai Melech leolam Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom Page 121 Lechat dodi Likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Shamo v'zacho B'dibur echad Hishmiyanu El hamiuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila Lecha dodi Likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Likrat Shabbat L'chuvne lecha ki hi mekor Habracha merosh mikedem Nesucha sof ma'ase B'machshavat tchila Lecha dodi Likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Mikdash melech Yimelucha kumitzei Mitoch ha'afecha rav lakshevet Be'emek habecha behu yachamol Alai chemla Lecha dodi Likrat kala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Na'ari me'afar milivshe bighet Tifatecha mi'al yad ben ishai Betzalach nikarva al nafshi Gehala lecha dodi לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי כי באורך, קומי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו אני יעמי ונמתה יעלתי לה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. והים כיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך עם סוסתן הכלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת, בעלה גם בשמחה, ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Bottom of 124. צדיק תמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון ישגה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי צורי ולא עוולה תבוא. אדוני מלך גאות לבש, לבש אדוני עוז התעזר, אף תיכון תבל בל תימות, נכון כיסך מאז בעולם אתה. נשאו נהרות אדוני, נשאו נהרות קולם, יישאו נהרות דוח ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים נשברי ים. מקולות מים רבים, אדירים נשברי ים. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai. Mikolot mayim rabim, Adirim mishmerei yam. Mikolot mayim rabim, Adirim mishmerei yam. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai. Mikolot mayim rabim, Adirim mishmerei yam. Mikolot mayim rabim, Adirim mishmerei yam. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai.
Bless the living God whom we are called to bless. Blessed is the living God who we are called to bless forever and ever. Page 128.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma potech she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, המעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, Adonai tzvot shemo, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam bet Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shokbenu ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח ונעלוס בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, וחוקותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב את עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד, שם כבוד, מלכותו לעולם, לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. כי מהשמיים על הארץ, ויאמרנם שלמה. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת ואמונה, חוזות וקיים, עלינו והוא אדוני אלוהינו, ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו. העושה גדולות עד אין חקר, ונפלאות עד אין מספר, וראו וענה גבורתו שבחו, והודו לשמו ומלכותו מרצון קיבלו עליהם. משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, עושה מלכותך אדוני אלוהינו, ראו בניך על הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו שלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. shalomecha ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim L'chaim.
Source of our life and our sovereign, cause us to lie down in peace and rise again to enjoy life. Spread over us the covering of your peace and guide us with your good counsel. Save us for the sake of your name. Be a shield about us, turning away every enemy, disease, violence, hunger, and sorrow. Remove the temptation that awaits us and the guilt that lies behind us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are a God who guards and protects us, a ruler of mercy and compassion. Guard us when we go out and when we come in to enjoy life and peace both now and forever, and spread over us the shelter of your peace. Blessed are you, God, spreading the shelter of peace over us, over your people Israel, and over all the world.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al amo Yisrael, ve'al kol ha'olam. Veshameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam, yanai beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et hashemayim ve'et haaretz, uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash.
Please rise for the silent Amidah beginning on page 140.
Adonai Sefatai titach, ufi agi tehilatecha.
If you're still davening, just put this on pause and keep on taking all the time you need. Peace, peace will come, and let it begin with me. We need peace, and let it begin with me. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Oh, let my life be lived for the good of my soul, and let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come, and let it begin with me. Shalom, shalom yavo, sheyitchil iti. Shalom, shalom yavo, sheyitchil iti. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Oh, let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come, and let it begin with me. We get to see something pretty cool tomorrow. Of course, it's a bat mitzvah, so of course we get to see something pretty cool tomorrow. But the timing this year is just perfect because the last parsha in Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, just happens to coincide with, well, the 1st of January and the 2nd of January. So that transition is, well, it's perfect timing. And we have something that we say that we mark that tradition, and we're going to do it tomorrow. And the final aliyah is the aliyah that our bat mitzvah, Katie, will chant. Spectacular voice this young lady has, by the way. And last few verses, so it'll be her entire aliyah. We'll encourage everyone who's in the Beit Knesset to stand. And quite frankly, when you are at home watching the bat mitzvah tomorrow, I'll encourage you to stand as well, because after the last verses are read, then the person who is reading the Torah calls out the words chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, and then those words are repeated by the kahal, and I really do want you to shout those out at home. Chazak, be strong. Chazak, be strong. V'nit chazek, well, for you grammar nerds out there, and I say that with great affection, it is a Mishnaic Hebrew reflexive imperfect form, plural form, which should essentially be translated as, and let us strengthen each other, or even we shall strengthen each other. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. It's usual for us to shout out something about strength after a Torah reading, right? Yasher koach or shkoyach, depending on just how deep into Ashkenaz yeshiva tradition you are or not. Although a lot more Reform Jews in this country call out shkoyach than I've heard. I usually get in slight amounts of trouble for adding a little ivris to my services, and I was surprised that my shkoyachs are not something that have been frowned upon. In Sephardic tradition, it is normal to just shout out chazak, strength, or be strong. And as I was researching back to where this comes from, now you can go all the way back to the Tanakh, but the actual shouting of Yasher Koach, which would be firm in your strength. So Yasher means straight, but in the same way we say, stay on the straight and narrow. That's being firm and resolute in your path. So Yasher Koach would be firm in your strength. Possibly dates back to earlier versions of our Torah services where the person who was reading the Torah held the Torah as they read it. Think about that for a second there. So indeed, saying, Yasha Koach, be firm in your strength, might have had a little bit of practical aspects to it. If that's true, that's just a wonderful part of our history. But the calling strength at a time of change, or at a time of caesura, at a time of movement from one thing to the next, at a time of a gap. And indeed, when I hold up the Torah scroll tomorrow, you will see that one of the ways that we can roll the scroll quickly, that magical thing that it looks like, oh my goodness, people who went to rabbinical school, how can they know that? Seriously, we've got tricks, I promise you. And as you roll through it, there's a gap about this big in the Torah scroll. That's 2 inches, something like that. There's a good gap in there, so you always know when you're in between books. And so we are going to be looking at that and shouting in that space, in that ineffable space in between this and next. That space that in many ways in our tradition represents God, God's self, that space where nothing more is written. We have our Aron HaKodesh in the temple, the holy Ark of the Covenant, where there are cherubim, where there are angels on top, right? Thou shalt not make a graven image, but there we have it. And we learn from our tradition that where's God in that? Are we supposed to be looking at the angels? No, the wings are facing each other most of the time. And in between, that's what our tradition says where God is, in the nothingness, in the space. So this liminal moment between one and the next, between 2020 and 2021, there is something in that space of transition that is profoundly holy. And into that space, we fill in the words, chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. The first time that we see a formulation like that is chazak ve'amatz, said by the Eternal to Joshua, as Joshua is about to take over the Mosaic mantle of leadership. And it is in the book of Joshua, and it is in terms of be strong and resolute, chazak ve'amatz, as you take the teachings of Moses and bring them with you into the land of promise, the land of flowing milk and honey, the promised land. The next time that we see it is a much more problematic series of passages, although if you read the entire chapter, it's just one that's rather amusing to read. Chapter 10 of 2 Samuel, in verse 12, we have the terms chazak, v'nit chazek together. It's a very early formulation of v'nit chazek, and it's essentially David saying to his troops, be strong and resolute as you go to battle with the Ammonites, who they had been kind of sort of allies for a little bit under the old king, and then the king dies, and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of intrigue. It's a fun passage to study. But it is calling out for strength at a time of trials and tribulation, indeed, potential death and bloodshed in advance. But I think my favorite out of all the interpretations that I found as I was looking up the history of chazak this week was a responsa that talks about another time of transition or a time of celebration of completion, and that's when we finish an entire tractate of the Talmud. There's a very special version of the Kaddish that's the Siyum Kaddish that's only said at that time, and it's very long, and it's hard Aramaic. It's brutal to say. And in it, it talks about looking back specifically. So in the act of finishing, looking back, and that the word chazak is supposed to cause us to turn back into what we've just learned, not to review, but to review indeed the mistakes that we've made within that. In other words, not just looking back and, yeah, I've done a brilliant job, but looking back honestly, looking back searchingly, looking back not with us as the hero of the looking back, but looking back with our actual deeds and actions over that course of learning. I think maybe you put the three together and you end up with a fascinating perspective and way to start into this new secular year. Because this year, this new secular year, has a little bit more of a resonance than I think most for us for some time. I said at Rosh Hashanah, I sure hoped that the positive change would happen when we went from 80 to 81, and didn't seem to happen as we are now looking at getting close to 60,000 new cases in this country every day. And hopefully, as we move into 2021, that's where, with now a jab, 3 approved ones moving forward, maybe we step into this space of healing and return to some version of normalcy. And as we move from that to the next, as we move from what we just went through to the next thing that we're going to enter, maybe there are 3 types of strength that we need. For we shout again, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. That first Chazak, be strong, I think then means be strong as we look back into 2020. Not as victims, but as people who had the agency to make decisions. And we made decisions to either lift up or to tear down, to love or to hate, to make excuses for our actions, or to work through and make amends for our actions. Be strong as we look back honestly. Chazak. Be strong as we then carry those teachings into the new year. V'nit Chazek. And if we're able to do that, we recognize that, well, of course, there will be challenges this year. So the type of strength that we need is then, let us all strengthen each other. It's maybe the best test of how we carry strength from our contemplations of the past, moving the responsibility into the future to see if that which we've learned is something that we're able to use to strengthen each other. It is maybe the most binary, black and white, profound test that we have in an ethical tradition. Are we strengthening each other or are we weakening each other? So, we've just left behind 2020. We're in this weird gap right now. We all are breathing, holding our breaths possibly, seeing when we get the jab, seeing when our communities can begin taking shape of normalcy once again, looking at those tiny bright sparks like we have tomorrow with the bat mitzvah. And the question is, as we begin to figure out if we're going to strengthen each other or not, have we learned anything from the last year? If there's any year that we had something to learn, it's 2020. Have we learned anything? What are we doing about that to carry what we've learned forward? And how is that going to be used to strengthen each other? Chazak, chazak, and indeed, v'nit chazek. Shabbat shalom. We are on page 310. Please rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות.
Page 313, therefore, Almighty God, we put our hope in you. Soon let us witness the glory of your power when the worship of material things shall pass away from the earth and prejudice and superstition shall at last be cut off. When the world be set right by the rule of God and all humanity shall speak out in your name and all the wicked of the earth shall turn to you, then all who inhabit this earth shall meet in understanding and shall know that we are all partners in the repairing of your world. For yours alone is the true kingdom and only the glory of your rule endures forever. So it is written in your Torah, the Eternal shall rule forever and ever, and so it is prophesied, the Eternal shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day the Eternal shall be one and known as one.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We turn our thoughts now to those that we've lost in recent days, and indeed at this time in recent years. We still have 2 funerals that that are yet to take place, so we continue offering up our thoughts and prayers to Peter Clausen and Emmanuel Pine as we think of them and we think of their families. We think of Caroline Israel and Linda Harrison in their ongoing time of loss. We just this week laid to rest Simon Gublar, who was the oldest member of Sinai, the father of Nick and Robert. Nick wrote, I think, one of the most touching hespids I have ever heard. And I don't know if the Gublar family are watching online tonight, but that was one of those narratives that forces even a rabbi to think about a lot. And I'm grateful to have met you all, and may your father's memory forever be a blessing. We as well continue to think of those who are in the period of deep mourning in Shaloshim, as we remember Me'er Guillermo Feuerstein, the uncle of Aviel Sella, and we continue to think of my friend Jamie Bellitz. We also turn our thoughts to those that we've lost at this time in previous years. We think of Jeffrey Friedman, the father of Tim Friedman, and we think of Clara Bender, the mother of Ruth Bender-Atik. We think of Jack Collins, the father of Alan Collins, and of Harry Newman, the father of Sue Friedman. We think of Willem Prince, the father of Elsha Prince, and of Richard Dyson, the father of Robert Dyson. We think of Blanche Marks, the mother of Barry Marks, and of Reginald Sawyer, the grandfather of Victoria Kaler. We think of Edith Schaffner and Hyman Coleman Schaffner, the mother and father of Linda Gillinson, and of Eva Adams, the mother of Roy Adams. We think of Philip Bloom, the father of Hannah Bloom, and of Trude Bottomley, friend to Dolph and Val Mogendorf. We think of Ella Newman, the mother of Maxine Brown. May all of their memories forever be a blessing. Of course, there are always names that are left off this list, and even if you are, maybe even especially if you are at home by yourself, we ask you, or I ask you, to call out those names, remembering the butterfly effect, that a butterfly moves its wings in one place and I'll change it, the clouds part across the world, sound waves entering into the universe. Who knows what changes we make as we remember those. Please call out those names of those we're thinking of. Zichronam levacha, may all of their memories forever be a blessing. If you are in a state of mourning, I ask you to please rise first. And then all of us join as we turn to page 316 as we enter into this place of Kaddish together in support of those saying Kaddish at home. Yit Gadal. Ose shalom b'roma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. May the source of strength grant strength to all those who are in mourning. May we all say, amen. Very few announcements that I see in front of me right now. There is no adult education this Sunday. The next one will be on January 10th at 3:30 p.m. We keep on adding new people each week, and people keep on saying they're getting something out of it. So sign up on the website and keep on joining in. We start with Sifrut Chazal. And if you don't know what Sifrut Chazal means, then you might want to show up for our class on January 10th at 3:30. If you do know what Sifrut Chazal is, I know a tiny bit about it myself, so if I only know a tiny bit, I'm guessing that we all have something that we can learn. I want to continue mentioning the COVID-19 vaccine, and that is getting the vaccine is an act of saving life, pekuach nefesh. So if you are asked to go on Shabbat, please do not hesitate. We are allowed to break every law of Shabbat for the sake of saving a life. That is hardcore halacha. So there you have it. Please do that. Also, please be responsible if you're public service message from your rabbi. If you're getting the Pfizer, it takes 8 to 10 days after the first jab to start having immunity, and then it's only after the second jab that the immunity goes up to that 90+%. So list 200 people that died after getting the jab in Israel. I'm guessing people thought I'm immune and I can go out and do whatever now, so let's please continue to be responsible. We've got this variant that is just going crazy, and can we please just try to be responsible? So with that, get your jabs when you're able to. I will be first in line when my age group is called, group 11, so ways down the road. And with that one, we close out our time together. I'm going to actually go back and just do the song that I did at the end of the Amidah. If you are of a certain age, you know that song without the Hebrew. If you are of another certain age, you only know that song with the Hebrew. So, it's one of those worthy songs to be able to do. And if you've never heard it before, well, it is quite simple to just say peace in multiple variations. We are required, according to Jewish tradition, to always end a service with the word peace. So this seems appropriate today. Peace will come, and let it begin with me. We need peace, and let it begin with me. Oh, all my life is all I can hope to control. Oh, let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come, and let it begin with me. Shalom, shalom yavo, sheyitchil iti Shalom, shalom yavo, sheyitchil iti. Shabbat shalom. And if you are still here and we are celebrating Kiddush together, please pour yourself a little fruit of the vine and join me on page 452. ויערב ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחול השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yavev ratzon henchelanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikrayei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat l'chaim. L'chaim. And those of you that are still here, pour yourself an adult beverage. And it's worth drinking in the new year, the new secular year. And my hope for health, and my hope for meaning, and my hope for learning for all of us for this time into the new year, May 2021, be a vast improvement. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechol niyeh bidvaro l'chaim. Shabbat shalom.